We're to the last life event number 5. Many years later, here that'll be maybe a little bit more palatable. Patrick has passed away, presumably from heart failure, from all the trauma he's endured. Let's say the kids are young adults at this point. They're 27, 29, 31, in that ballpark. Now, the first thing we have to talk about when the second of a couple that's married passes away is, do we owe the IRS money? Does that couple combined owe the IRS money? Now, if there's a married couple and one of them passes away, the surviving spouse does not have to worry about the IRS at that point. It's when the surviving spouse passes away that then we assess, do we owe tax combined as a couple? I'm not going to get too far into this because the estate tax exemption amount, the amount you can pass tax-free, happens to be very high at the moment, and very few people have an estate tax issue. But that's the first thing we think about when a surviving spouse passes. Now for the kiddos, let's say that we have this trust, or you had a testamentary trust, whatever the structure, and the trust that Polly and Patrick put together says, oh, the kids they'll be responsible. Let's give them their shares outright when they're 25. Well, in this situation, the kids are all over 25. Remember, they're 27, 29, and 31. So because they've all attained that age, they're going to get their 1/3 share outright. Again, it doesn't matter how much the inheritance amount is. This could be life-changing and not necessarily for the better. What is a 27-year-old, 29-year-old, 31-year-old going to do with a lump sum that they're suddenly getting? Who knows? Maybe they're going to take all their friends on a nice vacation. Maybe they're going to buy a bunch of stuff that they think is going to impress, someone. Maybe they're approached with a great business deal that is really a Ponzi scheme, or the business fails or whatever, and now they lost all their money. What if they have a substance abuse problem and they just can't handle it, and this creates an enabling mechanism to further that issue? We don't really know what these young adults are going to do with that money. Now, let's talk about the fur babies. Let's say, oh, Patrick thought, I don't need to think about that. One of the kids will take the animals. I don't need to deal with that. Well, let's say that Henry maybe turned out like his dad. He kind of bounces around here to there, doesn't really have a stable house. He's not going to take the animals. Let's say that Alex maybe married someone who is allergic to animals, so he can't take them. And Rose lives in a place that doesn't allow pets, so she can't take them. Now, everyone that Patrick thought would maybe take the animals and step up, they can't or won't. And so the animals are going to maybe end up in a shelter. This is actually how a lot of animals end up there. Their owners predeceased them, and they haven't planned for them, and so that's where they end up. So how can we fix some of these issues? First, for the IRS, for my clients that do have an issue and might owe taxes to the IRS, this estate tax, there are very simple tools that we can use to either minimize or completely eliminate the estate tax. So there doesn't need to be a big, scare factor around, are we going to have to pay money to the IRS? Because there are ways that we can eliminate that. For the kids, there's a couple different ways that we can structure their inheritance without it just being a lump sum outright when they turn 25. So one option is you can say, we're going to do several disbursements over time to where they're not just getting a lump sum all at once. We're going to break it up. So maybe they get 1/3 of it at 25, they get 1/3 of it at 30, and they get 1/3 of it at 35. So this does a couple different things. One is they can gain some financial maturity over that time. So let's say we gave them 1/3 at 25, they totally blew that. Well, by the time they're 30, maybe they've learned some financial maturity, they learned a lesson from that, and they're not going to do that again the second time. And then by the time they're 35, maybe they're even better at investing, or however they're using their money. The other thing it does is it gets them a little bit further away from the triggering event that caused the inheritance. So if you think of it emotionally, your dad passes away and you get a check. That can feel a little bit weird, and there might be a weird emotional tie to that money. So if you break it up, then they're getting a little bit further away from that emotional piece. The other way we can structure this for the kids is that we don't give them money outright ever, but we allow them to step in and pick up their own backpack. So the way that we structure this is you would have your successor trustee managing the kid's backpack until they turn a certain age. Then we have them step in as co-trustees. So the successor trustee and the kid are co-trustees together. They're making decisions together, they're kind of learning the ropes, gaining some financial responsibility. It's kind of a mentorship period. And then at a second age, the trustee is done and the kid is holding their own backpack. So we're never forcing the money out to them, but they step in and they're in charge. So there's different ways that we can structure a trust for beneficiaries and minor children to make it function in whatever manner that you think is appropriate for your family. All right, lesson number 4 is here. Your loved ones may need time to adjust to life without you. So you can build this in for them, whether that's through spreading out the distributions or having that mentorship period where they're kind of learning some things. You can do that multiple ways through a trust. Now for the fur babies, again, they need guardians too. Remember we talked about having a guardian named in the trust? So it's very clear who you want the animals to go to, and if you want a cash gift to accompany the animals, you can build that into the trust as well.